Hello, welcome back. So this episode is long overdue. I've been talking about doing this for a while. In fact, I've actually done a few different versions of it and didn't really like the content to it. So this video is actually going to be a bit longer than the others because it focuses on the software behind the Raspberry Pi, specifically RetroPie, the very foundation desktop that all the emulators and all the ROMs use to play your games, whether it's on an arcade unit or you plug it into your computer or just like your TV and you just play, with an Xbox controller. There's countless ways that you can utilize this. But I feel that just like we went over the hardware, which was important, I feel like the software, at least a basic understanding of how the software works and how to utilize it once you get it installed is very important. I mean, there's no secrets behind this. There's no secrets of the trade. The internet is full of all this information. The reason this video is taken so long is mostly because there's a wealth of information and options and adjustments that you can make. Once you have everything installed, you can go in and customize everything. Which is a very long, tedious process. It was worth it for me over the course of working with the software to customize my own personal Mammoth press build with all the ROMs, the artwork throughout, and everything. I will not bother you with that. There's actually going to be probably too much nerdy jargon going on in this video to begin with, but we'll focus on that later if there's interest. What I wanted to give you kind of a breakdown of is how to install the software onto the Raspberry Pi. And once you have it installed, how to connect it to the internet, and then really after you get it to the internet, how to use your own computer network at home to edit and rearrange files and bring ROMs in and everything without having to plug in and unplug repeatedly into your computer. You can just do it over the network. It makes things just a lot easier. So keep in mind this video has been recorded over the course of a few days. So I'm kind of cherry picking the best content, the stuff that I think is most interesting or most valuable. But again, there's going to be a lot of other content that I would like to share whenever I actually break into my own personal build. And then throughout the time that I've taken to put these video pieces together for this video, I've been working pretty heavily on the arcade cabinet itself, as you could probably see in the background. I'm pretty much down to just the marquee. It's currently being printed now. I should be getting it pretty soon, and after that, sorry, it's done. I've gotten some play tests of different variations of games and stuff done. Some cool kids have come over to play it and try it out, and I look forward to really formally introducing you to the Mammoth Press Multicade and variation builds thereof. So without further ado, without any further delay, finally let's get into the software of this thing. So what's important here is that you need just a few pieces of software using a PC to get everything set up on your Raspberry Pi system, including the software, and this is the most important, RetroPie. Now, RetroPie in itself, quote, allows you to turn your Raspberry Pi or PC into a retro gaming machine. It builds upon Raspbian, Emulation Station, and RetroArch, which are very useful tools. They're kind of like a combination of programs smashed together to create kind of one major desktop hub for arcade, home console, and classic PC games with minimal setup. Now, Raspberry Pis have been used for a lot of different things. I mean, they're tiny computers, so they've been used to power entire networks. They've been used to do a lot of technical spec work and some benchmark work. I think some people wire entire sound systems throughout their entire house using these because they're little computers. You can do whatever you want with them, but using them for a retro gaming arcade system, whether you play it on PC or on your like an actual arcade build. It's extremely popular. Enter RetroPie. So RetroPie is the first software that you'll need. They're kind of the desktop foundation of everything you need. So you go to retropie.org.uk, right here, and under download, they'll give you some options over in this area. You got the Pi 1 or 0 and 1, the 2 and 3, and the Raspberry Pi 4. Now you choose whichever one you have. I have a Pi 4. So clicking on that, it'll download a zip file. Now, the important thing about zip files is that you need an unzipping program, basically, to unzip them. And this is probably very familiar to you. Like, this is probably nothing new. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this because I already have it downloaded. But anything along the lines of WinZip or WinRAR, a lot of PC users have a program for this already. So, in case you don't, a popular one is 7-Zip at 7-zip.org. It's a free, basically, archiver with high compression ratio. It's very popular amongst people that use, that need the features that, unzip and unpack, a whole lot of different file formats. But most importantly, it's free. So 7-Zip is totally an option if you don't have something like WinRAR or WinZip. I do have WinRAR. So when you go into the actual WinRAR file or the zip file, you get RetroPie Buster 4.6, at least for mine, because you take that file that you downloaded and you open it, and you should get this image file .img. And that image file you want to extract to anywhere on your computer. I keep a Raspberry Pi 4 folder on my desktop, and I just unzip things there, or you can just put it right onto your desktop, whatever makes you feel good. But that file, once you bring it down, once you unzip it, that's the image file that you're going to burn onto your flash drive that you either got with your kit, or you can use any other kit or any other. It's not a flash drive. I'm sorry. It's an SD card, like a micro SD card. See, this is the one that came with my kit. It's still a tiny dude. It's a 32 gig. Currently, though, my arcade is running like 128 gig. I just wanted more stuff and more flexibility. But this is what came with my kit, and this is actually what I'm going to be flashing right now for this example. Also, that came with my kit is a USB reader that this thing sticks into. Now, if you have like a laptop, chances are you have a spot or like a port in your laptop that supports this. I think there's another version, like a larger adapter, like it's a larger card reader that you can stick in. You just slip that in and put it in your laptop. But my kit that came with my Raspberry Pi 4 that I got from Best Buy came with this little dude right here that we can stick our guy into. And then this will go into our PC whenever it comes time. But for now, this is where we're going to stick with this. So you have the image file of RetroPie. You get your SD card, that micro SD card, and you stick it into your PC, like so. Now, what's important here is that this image has to burn onto that 32 gig SD card. And how you do that is with a third program, Balena Etcher. It's at balena.io/etcher right here. And all this does is it takes an image that you select, and then you select the drive, hopefully the right drive, in this case the USB drive that we're with our micro SD card. And then you flash it. Basically, you install the image file, burning it onto the SD card, and that's what the Raspberry Pi, sorry, will use as basically its OS, its operating system. It'll boot up and start right up. So you want to download that. I have a 64-bit system, so you want to make sure you got the right one there. But once you get your cards installed, it's actually really simple to do this. You start up your etcher. Alrighty. So you want to flash from file. And the file you want to use is that RetroPie file that you got from that zip download, right? So you select that. You select target. Now this is very important. You don't want to like flash this to the wrong hard drive. So make sure that you have the right one. I know that this one, in my case, is drive G. And you can tell by the size of it, 30, almost 32 gig size. So select that. And then simply click flash. And it will burn that. You can discard that. Sorry. We will get started with the flashing process. Now this could take a while. In fact, this is going to take about 4 minutes, and then it's probably going to take another 4 minutes to finalize. So I'm just going to stop this and get back with you whenever it's finished. All right. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, welcome back. So I'm going to do a screen capture, like use the old traditional way with a phone, capturing the screen. I don't have a capture card, and because the Raspberry Pi doesn't have, it has a recording software that I haven't really messed with too much, but it doesn't have kind of a universal recording setup for the whole desktop, for the whole thing. Each individual game can be recorded, but not the whole system, especially when it's booting. I wanted to see you guys boot it. So what happens is when the file is done flashing to your SD card, in this case our little 32 big gigabyte guy, you pull it out of your desktop. In this case it was this thing. So we pull it out of here and we put it into the Raspberry Pi. Right underneath the bottom there is a little card slot. This was my 128 gig that I've spent a bit of time. See if I can put this in right. I'm using the viewfinder, so this is kind of funny. Hooray, I think I did it. Okay, so what I have connected here is that's the power line. That's the HDMI, the micro HDMI. This is a keyboard that I have plugged in separately because it'll probably be handy for setting up, like, the name of the device, just the initial setup, and I'll get into that. And then this here is an Xbox 360 controller that, in this case, I could it understands the 360, most USB devices, or controllers. So with that, it's just handy. Like, I can actually use, in this case, I can use my Xbox 360 controller. Now it does have Bluetooth, but you have to kind of set it up. Later on, we'll get into those settings. But right now, I just want to start as deep as this thing can get. There's just basic settings that I want to start on right now. But later on, as I dive even further and further into small details, you can fully customize this system however you want. And there's kind of an endless list of things you can change and modify. But what I'm going to do for now is just show you what to expect when you first get the image flashed onto it and you boot it up for the first time. Alright. Now this might take a couple minutes just for the initial boot, so I might speed through this. RetroPie. So the basic settings and the theme and the general look of it is going to be, it's kind of its default settings. There's a whole system, a whole online setup that you could go through and browse through any unique theme that you want, any look, any feel, any sounds, anything and everything you want to customize. You can do that. It can be tedious, and it takes a lot of time. Like I said, with my 128 gig version, I spent probably a few days just going through the small details. I even added some Mammoth Press, like specific splash images for loading screens. But here we are, right away, when it sees that you have a controller plugged in this case my 360 controller, it'll automatically prompt you to configure the buttons. So it says 1 detected, hold A button to, alright, on your device to configure it. So I will. Alright, so here we go. Up, down, left, right, start. Now, this is coded differently than the way the Xbox controller is, in a way that I don't really like. It says A button, but it says the East button, so it's asking for that button. I set it up this way. I personally don't really like it, so I'm just gonna go A, B, X, and Y. I'm gonna follow the letters more than the actual, and it translates just fine. Left shoulder, right shoulder, left trigger. I guess I don't have to keep reading what I'm doing, huh? Analog, so that's boom, boom, left, right. And the hotkey, now this is what's important. The hotkey is the button that you use to hold when you press other buttons that kind of speak to the actual RetroPie system. Like the biggest one is how to automatically exit out of games. You hold a button and then you hit. So, for example, hotkey, I hit the select button. So anytime I want to exit a game, I'll hold select, which is my hotkey, and hit start, and it automatically boots me out. Now this actually works for any controller that you want to set up, especially the arcade buttons. I just go through all this. The thing is that with the arcade buttons, I don't have like the right analog, the analog buttons. I use the directional keys for my joystick. So in the event that it's asking me for buttons that I don't have, if you just hit a button and hold it for 3 seconds, it'll skip it. And you can just go down the list and only set up buttons that you actually have. I only have 6 buttons on my player 1 and player 2. Some players might have 8 buttons, which is awesome for people that want to play like PlayStation games. I think PlayStation. Because not only do you have the left and right, you get the left and right trigger, right? So you might have additional 2 buttons. I don't have those. So for the specific trigger buttons, I just skip them. Okay, so anyways. Go ahead and hit OK. Ta-da! And here we have the RetroPie desktop, the main hub of everything that we're going to be using for retro gaming. Now, there's a lot of stuff installed on this. There's a lot of settings and adjustments that you can fine-tune. Everything from the look and the sound and the feel of everything. There's actually come pre-installed with a handful of emulator software that's already pre-installed. However, you're not going to see it on the desktop right away because unless you have games or ROMs in their individual folders, it doesn't really bother showing you. So as you add games, they'll pop up on this, and it'll be like a carousel that you can scroll through. But before we really get into that, I wanted to set up some of the more basic settings. One of which is the Wi-Fi. There is a LAN port in the Raspberry Pi as well, but the Wi-Fi works just as well. It's your choice, but let's go ahead and set that up. So we're going to go into the RetroPie configuration. And when we're in the configuration files, you see here like themes. That's where you can change the overall look and feel and theme of, there's like 70 some. But you can go through there when it's updated and choose what you want. You can Bluetooth settings for all your Bluetooth devices, which is pretty cool. Audio settings. Just splash screens. You can even create your own and drop them into the folder on the PC, and it'll show up. In fact, I have some for my own. But let's go into Raspi config. We're going to stick to the Wi-Fi setup now. So under Raspi config, it comes down with these options, and it's very specific. We're looking at interface options. I'm sorry, localization options.
Localization options is basically setting everything about our current location, which we need in order to set up our Wi-Fi network. So we'll go ahead and go to localization options and select. And again, I'm using both the Xbox controller or the keyboard. Each work fine. But we go specifically change Wi-Fi country. Set the legal channels in your country. Okay, so this is important. We want to tell it that, hey, we're in America, or at least that's where we are. You can set it to wherever you are. It's a pretty long list, as you can see. So I'm holding the arrow key down on the keyboard to go all the way down to US, and I'm kind of using the viewfinder to keep an eye on where I am. There we are. United States. There we go. Select that. Wi-Fi country set to US. Bam. Alright, so that's set. Now what we want to do is go to localization options again, it looks like. But this time we're going to go change time zone. And under time zone, this is a kind of a general, we're in America, so it's looking for a more general, like, hey, where are we? Okay, so we're going to go to America. And under America, please select the city or region corresponding to your time zone. Well, I'm central, so Chicago is pretty close. So that's where I have mine. I'm just double checking if there's anything. Nope. Okay. So once we have that, under Raspi config, you back everything out. Under Raspi config, we could go to network options, I believe. And under here, we could go host name. Now this is the name that that your system is going to be known by on the network. If you were to look it up on the network, you know what your computer could actually see. And it'll be handy that you can actually change all the software that's on your Pi directly through the network on your computer without having to plug directly into it. It's very handy. So anyways, this is set to RetroPie. You can set it to whatever you want. I think Mammoth Multicade is mine, but RetroPie, we'll stick with that. All right, and then under network options. Wait, no. I think if we actually boot all the way out, we should be okay to go to Wi-Fi. And then under Wi-Fi, it brings you to this screen, the configure Wi-Fi. See, connect to Wi-Fi network. Hit A, and it'll give you a list of the Wi-Fi IDs in the area. All right, there's me. All right, let's see if there's going to. It's going to ask you for your password. So enter your password for your network. Might take a minute. A long minute.
Okay, so now that we're actually connected to the wireless network on the RetroPie, now is the time I'm going to show you how to manage all your files directly over the network using your PC. This is actually a very handy setting in just that you can manage all of your files, all of your ROMs. You can bring artwork files, anything and everything you want to do to adjust how your arcade works. You don't have to have it directly connected to your computer. In fact, as of right now, it's no longer connected to my computer. My RetroPie, my Raspberry Pi, is actually currently in my arcade. But again, we're going to go back to the PC, and I'm going to show you, if you remember, when I told you that when you first open RetroPie, there's really nothing but your configuration settings, but there's a lot of stuff installed in the background, like all of your emulators, and everything that's ready to go, but it won't show until you have ROMs in those folders for it to add to the carousel. Well, we're going to go into the PC side of it now, and I'll show you why that is. So, let's make a quick switch here. Alright, so I'm on a Windows PC. So how this is going to work, if you go on Windows to network, and your RetroPie, your black or your Raspberry Pi is connected to the network like it should be, it should pop up in your network. Now I know that we had RetroPie set up as the name on the last one. That was just kind of the test one, or at least the example I was given. But this is actually the 128 gig version that I installed on mine, and it's set up the exact same way as the other way. It's just that I spent a bit more time with this build because this is the actual build that's currently in my arcade. So long as your Raspberry Pi is turned on and connected to the network, it should show up in your network settings. So if you double click on it, it'll give you basically all the main folders of your RetroPie. BIOS files, config files. This is really handy. And again, I told you that there's a lot of stuff installed on it that it doesn't show you. But in your config files, they give you every one of the emulators that's installed on the RetroPie image file. And there's a lot of them. And in these files, you get like text files that you can go in and manually change settings if you have to fine-tune certain settings with each of your emulators. For the most part, you probably don't have to. I've had a couple of control issues with like my trackball that I needed to go in and set extra parameters up for. Honestly, YouTube was a valuable source. Also, the RetroPie forums and like Reddit and everything was very handy. There's a lot of people that are doing this stuff, so if there's an issue, chances are somebody else has already ran into that and has an answer for it. But what's most important in this, based on all the settings, everything that we do, what's most important is the ROMs folder. Now, ROMs are basically the games that you're dropping into your emulator, if that makes sense. ROMs are basically game files. ROMs oftentimes come in zip folders. And it's just, the file formats are a little different depending on the emulator that it's made for, but if you go in and you open one of them, you'll get like a bin file, for example, here. And that's the file that you want to extract onto your computer and drag into its corresponding emulator file. So when you look in ROMs, it gives you this huge list of basically video game consoles. And it's in these folders that you put these games in. So, for example, this is Sonic the Hedgehog. That's a Sega Genesis game. So we can go for Genesis. You export that file onto the desktop or anywhere else, and then you drag that image file, boink, into your Genesis folder, and you'll see Sonic the Hedgehog. Your RetroPie is going to come pre-installed with a lot of them. There's some Atari options, a handful of those. There's Dreamcast, Game Gear, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Genesis, MAME, which is another kind of general arcade, Mega Drive, which was like the previous Genesis, the N64. But this is where, when you want a game on your arcade, this is where you drag them into. Then what you do is you go back into your RetroPie has to be turned on in order to be able to modify all the files and drag and drop everything. But once you have that set up, then you go into your RetroPie and you restart Emulation Station. And Emulation Station is basically like the backbone of all the emulators, and it communicates everything with the ROMs. So you go into your system and you hit restart, and it'll refresh all of its data, and it should recognize the games that you added and are ready to play. So that's kind of the very setup, the very backbone of how your RetroPie is going to work from this point on. If it's connected to the network and you have a computer connected to it, anything and everything you want to change or modify, you should be able to just jump on the network, get into your RetroPie as if it's just another computer on your network, and just add and take away anything you want. As it turns out, actually, if you're looking at this scene right now, you might actually have noticed that I have this glowing monument of awesome behind me. I'm actually a bit further ahead than where we last took off as far as the physical body of the arcade. In fact, I'm practically done with it already, and I've got a couple of cosmetic things that I still need to get organized and set up on, and then what I'm going to do is do a special, like, official Mammoth Press Multicade release showing off every bit of it. But as you can see kind of, behind me, it's a little bit of a sneak peek. It's running awesome. It was a lot of fun. I know it's been taking me a little while to get the software set up on it, because I've been kind of bouncing back and forth between the computer and it, but it's done. And it's amazing. It's everything I was hoping it would be, and then I'm still making adjustments and customizations to the software and my own. More importantly, I've been even setting up the next series of YouTube videos where I'm going to feature some really interesting people to come and just play games with me, and do like live interviews or just do or pre-recorded interviews with very important people that I've benefited a lot from knowing. I have, now that this is finished, I have so many other things that I want to do, and I just again want to appreciate everybody's time and your patience, and I'll get an official release of the Mammoth Press arcade video up soon. But if you have any questions or comments, please jump in on the video and let me know. Might as well like and subscribe, because I have a feeling I'm going to be doing a lot more of these, so there's so much more to come. Anyways, thank you again.